Well, the series is over. Lyn have announced that their partnership with Sporting JAX won't be going forward, so I guess that's the end of the series. Just kidding. We're of course not ending it there, after such an incredible first season, where we got promotion with all 3 teams. The transfer window has been rather brilliant, as we've brought the average age of all 3 squads down dramatically. Let's start with Lyn. We've brought in a new goalie in Jonathan Fischer on loan from Metz, a new centre-back in Maxwell Walidsi from Fredrikstad for 115k, which is a great buy in my opinion, as well as another centre-back in Mathias Øren for 925k from Sogndal, which is also a great signing, as he has a lot of potential. We then brought in a new left-back in Carlos Kitian for 300k, before signing midfielders Davila Jeta and Vegard Solheim for pretty cheap. And then, moving on to the attack, we've signed left-winger Emmanuel Mensah for 750k from Sogndal. He's a very promising player who's already good enough actually. And then Jordan Adebayo Smith from Minnesota. And finally, we've brought in a brilliant prospect on loan with a buy option, in Tommaso Ravaglioli from Bologna. The only notable player out the doors is Masirei Silla, who left for 2 million to go to Sporting JAX actually. And that brings us to the transfers across the pond as well. We brought in quite a few youngsters that went straight out on loan, which included Theisinger, Kroll, Chauke and Kwamina. And as for the players who'll play for us, we brought in Eliezer Tape, who'll take Walker's spot in net, aforementioned Silla, fullbacks Cisse and Maseko, and striker Elijah Winder, who was way too expensive, but hopefully he can contribute. And finally, Philip Rønningen Jørgensen for 3 million from Odd. That is a huge signing, as he's a good MLS player. As for the outs, we got rid of Tingy, Gagan, Benalcazar, Anderson, Akanirige, Erlandson and Pronk for a combined price of just under £1 million, which was necessary to free up some spots in the squad. And then we also let Scott and Masilela leave on freeze to join Ubuntu, as well as sending Chauke, Maiga, Wang and Escobar on loan to Ubuntu. And that in turn brings us down to South Africa, and the deals we made there. In addition to the players who joined from Sporting JAX, we brought in 2 young strikers, who'll be our starting strikers actually, in Orifa Maubelu and Kamvalethu Seli. A young winger in Simfiwe Mambane, and 2 young lads on loan from South African Premiership sides in goalie Dijan Ashen and centre-back Aidan McCarthy. There were a lot of players that left the club as their contracts expired, which was nice to bring down the age of the squad as well, but I can't remember exactly who left. Another thing is that the youth intake at Lyn came in before the season started, and it was actually kinda decent. We got a promising goalie in Glenn Arne Randish, and somehow an Eritrean striker in Hani Tillahan. I've never seen such random nation in a Norwegian youth intake, but he actually looks quite promising. The bullshit thing though is that the board have rejected my request to go professional. Why? Literally every team in the first tier are professional. As the season is starting, Lyn are 15th out of 16 teams in the season preview, so it looks like we're battling relegation. We start away to Strømsgodset, and we concede 26 minutes in. Solheim then missed this good chance, before Adebayo Smith equalized it on his debut. And then, right after the break, Solheim scored to give us the lead. It didn't take long till they score again though, as Melkersen scored. And then we conceded a pen, which Stengel scored. And then they scored again, and again in the 86th. Alassane Young scored this brilliant chip a couple minutes later though. And a minute later, Mensah scored to make it 5-4. But it was too late, so we open with an insane 5-4 loss, which had 9 different goal scorers. As for the season preview in the States, we're 14th out of 30 teams, but I genuinely think we can push into the playoffs. Our opener started with us getting a pen 21 minutes in, as Cervantes gets tackled, and Redzic scores it. 20 minutes later, we got another pen, which Redzic scored again. They then scored as Rodrigo gave them the ball in our box, but as we got our 3rd pen, Redzic scored it again to get his hat-trick. That's brilliant. So we win 3-1 in the season opener as Redzic got a hat-trick from the spot.
Penrith! Penrith!
As we got promoted to the second tier in South Africa last year, the season now starts in August like usual. So our opener against Unbeaten City came shortly after our openers with the other two clubs. We're 4th in the season preview by the way, so I'm looking to get promoted again to be honest. Our opener with Ubuntu started with their goalie getting a big save just a minute into the nice alley. Half an hour in though, we turned up. Maubelo got the opener and the second, before Selly got the third and final one before the break. Scott then scored this absolute banger before we crumbled. They scored in the 52nd, the 88th and the 92nd. But they couldn't get the equalizer, so we opened with a 4-3 win. The next 4 games we didn't lose a single game, as we hammered Hungry Lions 5-2, with Maubelo getting his second brace in as many games. Then we only managed a 1-1 draw with Marumo Gallants, before smashing Baroka 5-2, as both Arense and Williams got a brace. And finally we beat Swallows 3-0 as Maubelo, Scott with his banger and Selly got our goals. As for our start in Norway, we did have a decent opening. We drew our second game 2-2 with Odd as Ravaglioli got his first of the season, before we beat Ålesund 2-1 with Mensa and Adebayo Smith getting the goals. A 1-1 draw with Hamkam was next, before Bryne beat us 3-1. A surprise 3-1 win over Fredrikstad was next, as Ravaglioli got a bloody hat-trick. But after that game, we absolutely crumbled. We lost 2-1 to Molde and 2-0 to Brann, before going into the arguable most important match of the season. We're up against rivals Vålerenga, or Søpla, as we Lyn people call them, which literally means garbage or trash. Like, just look at this. This is the game from last year, which was held at Ullevål Stadion, the national team stadium. And this was a game in the second tier of Norwegian football, which was actually insane. Back to our game though, both teams had a decent chance missed in the opening 15 minutes. But 10 minutes later, they got the opener. And as I went more and more attacking, they scored both a second and a third to make it a 3-0 loss for us. But we'll get them at home in the next game. To make this run of games even worse, we also lost 2-1 to Viking in the 10th game. The opening 10 games in the States were a lot better. We hammered Salsa in our second game as centre-back Rodriguez of all people got a brace. We then beat York United 3-1 as Ramos and Winder got one each, before somehow losing 2-1 to Tampa Bay. But we hit back with 3 straight wins. 3-0 over Fuego with Cervantes, Ramos and Silla getting one each. 2-0 over Charleston as Runningen Jørgensen got his first for the club with his great finish, and 4-1 over Lexington with centre-backs Rodriguez and Silla getting one each, as well as Ramos and Redsich getting one. We then absolutely rescued a 1-1 draw with North Carolina as Ramos got the equalizer in the 94th. But in that game, both our midfielders got injured. Benitez and Runningen Jørgensen are both out for a month.
Okay. Are you kidding? That's unfair! She made those— I need to calm down. Everything's fine.
Amanda.
I'm an adult.
Thankfully, we beat Las Vegas 3-0 in our next game, as Cervantes and Winder got one each, before also beating Orange County. We beat them 4-0, with Redsich, Winder and Cervantes scoring. Returning to South Africa, we won 2-0 against BTM Sports as Loney McCarthy got a goal, before Williams got the second. Now we've got league leaders and promotion rivals Maritzburg. We haven't dropped a single point yet. And we conceded 44 seconds in, and 5 minutes in, and 10 minutes in. Brilliant. We're 3-0 down 10 minutes in. We did get one back before the break through Williams, but then they scored in the 70th to make it 4-1. Maiga and Mambane did get one each to make it 4-3, but it was way too late. So we've lost our first game of the season here as well. Our 2 strikers, Maubelo and Selly, got one each in our next game as we beat NB La Masia 5-1, before we also beat Pretoria Callies 3-2 as Maiga got a brace. In the 10th game, we smashed Black Leopards 6-2, with Maubelo and Selly getting a brace each. And then we somehow lost 4-1 to Amatux. I don't know how we've done that, but it's happened. Orense and Maubello got one each in our next game as we beat Magesi 2-1, before we also won 2-1 over Milford, 7-2 over Kasrik Stars, and 3-0 over City Stars in the 15th league game. And that means we're actually in first at the halfway point. We're tied on points with Baroka, and it's seriously tied for the title and automatic promotion spot. Our nightmare start in Norway kind of continued, but we did get some strong results as well. Like this one, we drew 2-2 with Rosenborg away from home, thanks to our youth intake player Tillahun getting us a pen in the 96th. 96th! And Breisdal of course scored it. We then unsurprisingly lost 2-0 to Bodø Glimt, before actually getting a strong 1-1 draw with Sarpsborg, as Mensa equalized it in the 79th. We then absolutely stole a 2-1 win over Tromsø, as Breisdal once again had balls of steel to convert a penalty in the 95th.
It's his job, isn't it?
And then we lost 3-2 to Kristiansund as we got a 2-goal lead in 12 minutes, before giving it away in 13 minutes. That means we're in 13th at the halfway point, in the relegation playoff spot. We are tied on points with 12th place odd, but we need to start picking up some points now. To be fair, except for the last 2 games, we've had so many tough games against mid-table or better sides, so we should be able to win some games now. As for our next 5 games in America, we actually win 4 of them. We beat San Diego 2-1 as Redzic and Benitez got one each, Louisville 3-2 as Winder, Redzic and Ramos got the goals, Indy 11 2-0 thanks to Cervantes and Redzic once again getting the goals, and finally Hartford 2-1 as our 2 strikers, Winner and Ramos, got the goals. The 2-2 draw with San Antonio was the 5th result, as we're in first at a halfway point. We've gone 11 games unbeaten, and have only lost a single game this season. We're actually playing so well, and I'm kinda baffled by it. You're probably wondering how we're doing in the cups, so here it comes. In a Norwegian Cup, we beat 2 B-team sides 5-1, Odd 2 and Start 2, before getting knocked out by Viking for the 2nd year running. This time a 3-2 loss.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Me? Just hanging around.
In South Africa, we straight up lost in a preliminary round, 1-0 to Amatux. But in America, we've actually done so well. We started with an easy 6-2 win against an amateur side named St. Louis or something, before we got drawn MLS side New York City FC. I thought this would be a guaranteed loss, but it wasn't. Rønningen Jørgensen put the team on his back as he scored a brace of great finishes, and that was enough to knock them out 2-1. We then beat Maryland Bobcats 3-2 as Ramos got a brace and Redzic the final one. And now we've got another MLS side in CF Montreal. This game wasn't even a question of who's winning, as we got the lead through Ramos 21 minutes in. They did get the equalizer a minute later, but as Rønningen Jørgensen scored this, we got the lead back. And as Redzic got this in the 60th, we won 3-1 to get to the 5th round for the first time ever. So we can win these games against MLS sides, right? Well, we somehow can't beat Oakland Roots and Minnesota. What? We have at least got a bigger transfer budget to fix it though, so that's nice at least. But without signing anyone, we hammered Phoenix 5-1 as we scored 5 from 0.86 xG. 5 different goal scorers in Ramos, Benitez, Redzic, Winder and Rønningen Jørgensen meant we were back. For 2 season-defining games, we beat Sacramento 3-2 as Ramos got yet another goal. The season-defining games in question are against current 2nd and 3rd place teams Nashville and New England respectively. Against Nashville, we opened by scoring an offside goal 8 minutes in, and then we conceded 7 minutes later. Winder did get us back though, by scoring this tap-in. They then missed this, and hit the bar twice, before eventually scoring this in the 94th. But we have a highlight. And an incredible team passing move later, Hurtado scored this to equalize it and make it a 2-2 draw. That is so important. And now it's New England away. Ramos had an absolute shocker this game, as he somehow missed all these chances. So I took him off after that 3rd miss, because we cannot be having that in this game. Rodriguez then hit the post, before Cervantes got us a bullshit pen, and as resurgence scored, we won 1-0. Let's return to Norway now, for the second half of the season. We start by going 2-0 up against Odd with two of the most scuffed goals I've seen. Davila scored with this finish, before Ravaglioli picked up this poor back pass to score easily. But then Solberg Nielsen decided to get his second yellow and make it impossible for us to win. So they scored right before the break and right after it to make it a 2-2 draw. 42 seconds into the next game against relegation rival Strømsgodset, Davila gave them the ball, so they scored. Mensa did get the equalizer 12 minutes later though, but then Conte scored to get them the lead again. Before Mensa scored again to equalize again. Right after the break, Davila scored with this shite, extremely lucky finish to get us the win. That's so important. A dull game followed, but we got the win again, as we beat Ålesund 1-0 with Alassane Young getting the goal. The opening half hour against HamKam, we ran all over them, as we scored 3 goals through Alassane Young, Mensa and Ørn. And as we only conceded twice in the second half this time, we win another game. And then, against Bryne, Alassane Young continued his form, as he opened the scoring 18 minutes in. They then equalized right before the break though. But in the second half, Alassane Young scored 3 more goals to make it a 4-1 hammering, where Alassane Young scored all 4. Wow. But to bring us back down to earth, we lost 1-0 to Fredrikstad as they scored this pen. But another but, after Alassane Young got 4 against Bryne, his strike partner felt left out. So he went and scored 4 out of 4 goals against second place Molde. We won 4-1 over Molde, as Ravaglioli got all 4. Oh my days. A strong 3-3 draw away to Brann was next, as our strikers Ravaglioli and Alassane Young got 1 each this time. And before the run-in, our chairman did something unforgivable. First, he decided to accept an offer from Ajax for Alassane Young, after I'd rejected about 100 offers, with some even being better than this one. So he's gone to them, but he's at least coming back on loan for the rest of the season.
It can't go on like this, can it?
It can.
But our money-greedy chairman hadn't had enough with that, so he accepted an offer for Hylen. What the fuck? This guy is so dumb. He's literally selling our best players. So Hylen has gone to bloody Minnesota, who are in the same division as Sporting JAX. So we had to bring in a few players to make up for this monstrosity. We brought in a new young right winger in Håkon Vold-Krog from Moss for incredibly cheap, as well as a new backup goalie, a new backup right back, a decent winger on loan from Sporting JAX in Nicolas Rossi, and finally a brilliant DM with loads of potential in Mackenzie Kars. And as for Sporting JAX, we brought in left-back Nolan Norris on loan from RB Leipzig. I actually tried signing him permanently right before this, but he wasn't interested. We do have a buy option though. We then brought in Carlos Carrillo on loan from San Luis with a buy option, as well as Christian Fletcher and aforementioned Nicolas Rossi, who's an emergency short-term replacement for Hylen. And by the way, we didn't do any business at Ubuntu. For the run-in in Norway, we've got rival Søpla next. A huge game for both the club and the supporters, as we need to win over these lots. And we start incredibly, with Ravaglioli opening the scoring 22 minutes in. And then their centre-back Kiel Olsen scored a great own goal as he tackled Alassane Young. Solberg Nielsen then conceded a pen right before the break, which Ole Sæter scored. And then they somehow got a pen for this completely clean challenge by Sell right after the break, which Sæter scored again. In the 63rd, however, Ørn scored this to get us the lead again. And as Adebayo Smith scored this as well, we win 4-2 against Vålerenga to get our revenge. We then lost 3 straight. 5-1 to Viking, 3-1 to Rosenborg and 3-2 to Bodø/Glimt. But as we drew 1-1 with Sarpsborg and impressively won 4-1 away to Tromsø, we officially secure our place in next year's Eliteserien. As we drew 0-0 with Kristiansund in the final game, we finish in 11th, 2 places above the relegation playoffs, and actually only 7 points off 5th. So it's been an encouraging season in my eyes, and with a few additions we can definitely push up and fight for the European places next season. Tommaso Ravaglioli has also claimed the top scorer title in the league, tied with Braut and Kadewere on 17 goals. So I'm gonna do all I can to get him here permanently. Since the South African season is a bit behind the American and Norwegian season, we're heading back to the States. We continued our incredible season with a 3-1 win over Greenville, thanks to a brace from Ramos and a debut goal from Loney Carrillo. We then disappointingly drew 1-1 with Miami FC and 2-2 with Charlotte Independence. Against Charlotte, we had 4.62 XG. I don't know how we didn't score more. But a positive is that we've continued our insane cup run. We completed an incredible comeback against MLS side Columbus Crew as we scored 3 goals in the final 15 minutes. Winder, Ramos and Benitez got our goals, as we're now playing Fuego in the quarters. And we had full control that game, as Resurgence scored a pen and Ramos got our second. So now we've got Seattle Sounders in the bloody semis. A single chance for each team was the case in a dull semi-final, as Tape got a big save and Alan Rodriguez missed this big chance. So it's going to extra time, where they had one chance, which was this miss. So pens it is. Fletcher is opening the ball, and he scores. Bloody Mateta is there for a saker, and he misses as Tape saves brilliantly. Rønningen Jørgensen makes no mistakes for us as he smashes it in. Salem then misses for them again. Sylla then scores our next, before Malcolm scores for them. But if Juan Rodriguez scores for us, we're through to the final. And he does score! That's insane! A second-tier side in a US Cup final. And in the final, we've now got New York Red Bulls. It's the biggest game in the club's history, as we can win our first major trophy while being a second-tier team. And it's also our first game against one of the Red Bull clubs, and we could start our quest of overtaking them with a win over NYRB. But we didn't. We got absolutely humbled 4-0, as Talisca, Ruben Neves and Mitrovic were amongst the goals. I mean, listen to those names. It was an incredible run, but we just didn't turn up at all in the final. So that's really disappointing. A late goal from Winder meant a 1-0 win over Vancouver FC as we returned to the league. And as we also won over Cavalry, this time a 2-0 win with Ramos and Cervantes getting the goals, we're officially promoted to the MLS. Wow, 2 promotions in 2 years. And we can also get the title if we continue winning. We didn't continue winning though, as we draw 3-3 with Forge FC. But we then won 3-2 over Halifax Wanderers as Winder got a brace and Carrillo got the final one. So if we win against Monterey Bay, we win the title. We absolutely hammer them. Cervantes opened the scoring 8 minutes in. Redsich then got the second, before Rønningen Jørgensen got the third with this absolute peach of a free kick. Redsich then got his second, before Ramos got number 5 and 6 to make it a 6-2 win, and our first ever trophy. Club captain Ruben Ramos lifts the trophy, and we're playing in the MLS next season. So we finish as champions, 2 points ahead of Nashville. Our captain and wonder boy Ruben Ramos has had another insane season, ending up in second in the top scorer list with 17 goals. And he's got 11 assists as well. Rønningen Jørgensen has also had a brilliant season, with 11 assists from DM, as well as an average rating of 7.53. The second half of the season in South Africa started with a surprising 2-1 loss to Hungry Lions. But we then turned it up. We beat Uppington City 2-1, Arumo Gallants 3-1, promotion rivals Baroka 7-0 as Williams got a hat-trick, and Swallows 5-0 with Williams getting another 2 goals. Then we disappointingly drew 1-1 with BTM Sports of all teams. But then we hit back with an incredible 4-1 win over our other promotion rival Maritzburg. Mybello got the opener 48 seconds in, before Abraham, Swane and Arense made it 4. Before the youth intake came through, we won 4-2 over NB La Masia, with Mabelo, Selly, Chauke and Mukwango getting the goals. The youth intake though is brilliant. We have an incredibly promising left winger and centre mid in Siabonge Mkise and Oswald Franch. Returning to the league, we win 2-1 over Pretoria Callies as Williams got yet another goal before beating Black Leopards 4-1 as Escobar got a brace. A 6-3 win over Amatux was next, where we had 6 different goal scorers. Before also beating Magesi, this time a 3-1 win as Chauke, Arense and Maubelo got one each. Yet another win followed, as we beat Milford 1-0 with Masilela getting the goal from the spot. And now, if we win against Casrick Stars, we're promoted by winning the league. Maiga got us the lead 30 minutes in with his banger of a goal. Our goalie then got a huge save in the 62nd, but not even 10 minutes later, they scored to equalize. But on his debut, our youth lad French got tackled in their box to get us a pen in the 80th, which Williams scored with a Panenka to get us the win and the title. But we don't get a fucking trophy lift, bro. We are promoted though, to the top flight. We finished as champions this season in South Africa as well, by 5 points down to Maritzburg. The standout player here was clearly Selly, with 20 goals and 12 assists. But both Williams and Chauke also had great seasons. What an insane season for all 3 clubs. We'll now have them all at the top level in their respective countries, and we can definitely bring in some big names now, and hopefully quite a lot of youngsters with potential.